3 bone-chilling true scary stories to hear when it rains. Sleep soundly, but beware tonight. The rain hammered down like an army of tiny drummers, filling the night with a steady rhythm that set the stage for the unknown. Shadows twisted and danced in the flickering light of a single bulb. It wasn't just the storm that sent shivers down spines, it was the stories waiting to unfold, stories that whispered through the wind, creeping under doors and curling around eardrums. No one knew just when a strange entity would choose to step from the darkness, but deep down, every listener felt it, a raw tremble of anticipation, the thrill of danger nipping at their heels. Jake had always believed in the supernatural, those late-night campfire tales fed his imagination. But the night his sister Sarah vanished into the woods behind their home made reality bleed into a world far more terrifying than anything spun by the campfire. Suddenly, the woods weren't just trees and shadows, they were a living entity, a gaping mouth waiting to swallow the unwary. For weeks, they searched, but all they found were her things, discarded as if the forest itself was taunting them. The air thickened with silence every time someone mentioned her name, squeezing Jake's chest painfully tight. He couldn't shake the feeling that the forest had taken her, maybe even wanted her. Then, there was the legendary ghost of old Mrs. Jenkins, who had passed away during a storm just outside their town. On stormy nights, children claimed they could hear her croaking voice calling for help. A few brave souls dared the graveyard to ring her old bell, the one that trembled in the wind long after her funeral. One fateful night, a group of kids tested their courage, and they never returned. Folks said they saw shadows flitting among the graves, shadows the size of full-grown men, but colder, more brittle than bone. As the rain picked up, an eerie gust whipped through the windows. It carried with it a chilling whisper that felt human yet otherworldly. Jake stood frozen, heart racing, hands sweating. He licked his lips and leaned closer to his friends huddled on the couch. They exchanged nervous glances. Something in the room shifted. Had the storm forged a connection with the tales, or was something lurking beyond the fragile barrier of their laughter? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Jake's skin prickled as he heard a faint tapping, a rhythmic, deliberate knock coming from the back door. His friends all turned towards the sound, wide-eyed and breathless. It must be the wind, someone whispered, but deep in their hearts, they all knew that it was more than that. The night was pulling them in, teasing them with glimpses of horror. Could it be Sarah? Could it be the legend? The rain beat harder, drowning their second guesses with every drop. Jake took a step forward, the handle cold against his palm, pulse echoing in his ears. A part of him screamed to run, while another part, the part that missed his sister, forced him to turn the knob. What lay beyond was a darkness that waited eagerly, hungry for souls ready to uncover what had been buried there. The door creaked open slowly, the hinges whining like a wounded animal. Cold water rushed through the slight gap, casting an uneasy chill into the room. Jake's heart raced as he squinted into the inky blackness outside. The rain poured in relentless sheets, obscuring any potential figure lurking just beyond the threshold. Was anyone out there? Or was it just the storm playing tricks on him? "Jake, are you sure about this?" whispered Clara, her voice trembling. The room felt smaller now, as if they all collectively inhaled the weight of what was to come. The others huddled closer, breaths caught in their throats, casting anxious glances toward the door that beckoned with an unseen force that he swallowed hard, trying to gather courage. "I have to look." It could be Sarah. The last word hung in the air, charged with a desperate hope that would soon clash with reality. Every inch of him screamed to pull back, but Jake stepped into the storm, letting the cold rain drench his nightclothes. He had to know. Each step toward the door felt heavier, and every heartbeat echoed the memory of his sister's laughter, a haunting melody that had faded all too quickly. As soon as he was outside, he felt the tempest envelop him. The wind howled through the trees as if it carried secrets. There was nothing but darkness, the only illumination spilling from the dim light of the house. He strained his ears, trying to differentiate the storm's roar from anything else. Just as he was about to retreat, he noticed something, a subtle movement by the edge of the woods, shadows intertwining beneath the heavy branches. "Hey! Is anyone there?" The words came out more like a plea than a challenge, swallowed instantly by the raging wind. Silence followed. Heart pounding, he turned back toward the house, only to see that his friends had gathered closely by the door, eyes wide, fear etched on their faces. They had witnessed his foolishness from just beyond reach, and for a fleeting moment, Jake wished he had stayed inside with them. Then, piercing through the cacophony, came a sound soft and distant, yet unmistakably familiar. It was a voice, low and almost mournful. "Help me, did you hear that too?" Clara gasped, now standing right beside him, peering into the darkness. Jake took a step back, fists tight against his sides. It was Sarah's voice, unmistakable yet distorted. "It's coming from the woods," he breathed, and the realization settled like ice in his stomach. "We can't go in there." Mark's voice quivered, but Jake was already moving forward, the desire to find his sister clouding every rational thought. He had to go in. He had to save her. The thought lit a fire in his chest, even as his instincts screamed for him to run the other way. "Wait." Clara grabbed his arm, her grip fierce. "If it's a trap, what if something's waiting for you?" Jake shook her off, heart racing against reason. A split-second choice loomed before him. Help or abandon. "I have to try. I can't leave her." With that, he stepped into the shadows of the trees, the cold quickly wrapping around him like a shroud. As the darkness closed in, he could barely see where he was going, his breaths now short and ragged. Jake's pulse quickened, heated only by the battle between dread and determination. But just as he ventured deeper, the excitement turned to horror. A tangled sound wove through the air, the kind of laugh that made adrenaline surge, as if something or someone were watching him closely, lurking in the depths of the forest. That he pressed on, though every fiber of his being rebelled against the pull of that unnatural presence. But then, he froze as a figure suddenly emerged from the shadow, its silhouette twisted and unnatural, a mockery of humanity. "Help me," the voice echoed again, leading deeper into the encroaching darkness. Was this really Sarah? Or something worse pretending to be her? With a resolve that both frightened and exhilarated him, Jake stepped forward, knowing that every choice had a cost. Would he dare to unravel the truth, even if it meant confronting the things that haunted him most? Jake squinted, the storm's din surrounding him like a living entity. The figure before him flickered, breathing in and out of focus, a cruel dance of shadows. "Help me," it sounded so much like Sarah. Hope surged anew, battling with the dread that coiled in his gut. "Sarah?" he dared to ask, his voice trembling. The figure hesitated, tilting its head as if weighing his words. The storm paused, and in that moment, he thought he detected a faint flicker of recognition in the darkness. But then it twisted, a smear of black that had lost its human shape, revealing something more sinister. Jake, the voice twisted into an unnatural laugh. The sound echoed against the trees, gravelly and cold, slashing through his heart like a knife. He felt the chill of despair wrap around him, squeezing tighter. "No!" he shouted, backing away, panic bubbling inside him. He turned, desperate to escape the grotesque blot of darkness. But as he stumbled back, branches snagged his shirt, pulling him into the woods like they were alive. The laughter chased him, a haunting melody that wrapped around him, mocking his every step. "Get out! Get out!" Jake yelled, his voice swallowed by the storm. The shadow loomed behind him, darting swiftly to block his path. Another figure emerged beside it, then another, each taking on distorted forms that echoed the ones he loved, their faces twisted into painful masks. "Jake, help!" he shook his head, squeezing his eyes shut for a heartbeat. If he could reclaim his senses, think clearly, but it was too late. The woods encased him, thick and overbearing, whispering secrets he couldn't understand. He could almost feel their breath on him, rancid and ancient, that he turned again, running deeper into the forest, branches clawing at him, the ground slick with mud and fallen leaves. The laughter roared around him, intertwining with the howling wind, transforming into a tempest that rattled his very being. Just when he thought he'd lost them, he stumbled into a clearing. Moonlight pierced through the branches above, illuminating the surroundings with ghostly silver. The air changed, it felt thinner, charged with static energy. Jake's heart pounded wildly, and for a split second, he thought he caught movement on the edges of the light, figures darting just beyond his vision. The wind shifted, carrying with it a voice he recognized too well. "Jake, I'm here." His heart twisted painfully as he turned, desperately searching the edges of the glade. "Sarah? Where are you? Help me," she sounded, trapped, a whisper of a ghost drowned in sorrow. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows at the boundary of the clearing. It was tall, cloaked in darkness, with an otherworldly presence that in its hands, it held chains, clanking against each other like the sound of broken promises. "You chose the wrong path, Jake," it intoned, voice heavy like fallen ash. He stepped back, clenching his fists. "I came here to save her. I want to let you take her." It laughed, echoing in the stillness. "You can't save what's already lost with that." The shadows advanced, swirling around him, a storm of despair that began to suffocate. He staggered, dread rushing through him like venom. Every step he took felt like a step deeper into a nightmare. Panic clawed at him. But he couldn't let it win. Jake took a deep breath, steadying himself. He needed to think, and fast. Right, left, he had to find her. That was all that mattered, and just as he was about to bolt, a sudden scream erupted from the very heart of the woods. A sound that made every nerve in him jolt. It wasn't Sarah, but it felt as if the forest itself were in agony. "Help me." The voice echoed again, this time clear as day. It wasn't Sarah, but who was it? With pulse racing and breath catching, Jake stood frozen at the edge of a choice. Would he follow the ghastly cry echoing like a siren call, or try to confront the terrifying veil of darkness that was closing in? The shadows shifted, and as if sensing his resolve, they coiled tighter. He couldn't hesitate much longer. Jake forced himself to think, would he chase hope, or would he seek the truth behind the terror? His mind raced, and with one last look at the encroaching darkness, he took off toward the scream. Each stride carried the weight of his decision, but somewhere inside, amidst the chaos, he felt a glimmer of defiance burn bright. What awaited him on the other side of that darkness? Would he discover answers, or unleash something far worse? The trees whispered as Jake plunged into the darkness, every step pushing him deeper into the forest's heart. The chilling scream echoed in his ears, pulling him forward like a fishing line hooked into his chest. Each footfall sank into the damp earth, the mud oozing around his shoes, wrestling him with every move. "Come back," a voice called from behind, distorted by the roaring wind. It was the laugh, cold and venomous, and his blood ran cold. He had to keep moving, he couldn't look back. Branches whipped at his face, thorns snagged his skin, but he pressed on. "Help me." The cry was desperate, filled with a sadness that clenched his heart like a vice. There was no mistaking it, this feeling was different from that of the shadow. This was raw, real, and human. As he navigated the tangled terrain, the clearer he heard the voice growing more frantic. "Help. Please." It tingled against his spine, and for a moment, hope ignited like a match flaring in the darkness. If he could just find the source, if he could save someone, anything, then perhaps he could make sense of this nightmare. A figure suddenly appeared, a silhouette against the dim moonlight filtering through the branches. It was small, hunched over, trembling. The flickering shadows around it danced ominously. "Help me," the voice was cracked, full of despair. "Who are you?" Jake shouted, heart racing. The figure slowly straightened, revealing a face streaked with dirt and tears. Panic clawed at his throat when he realized it wasn't Sarah, but a young girl, lost and terrified. "I can't stay here. They'll take me," she whimpered, glancing around, eyes wide with fear. "Who will take you?" Jake pressed, urgency pushing him closer. "The shadows!" she exclaimed, voice trembling. "They come for me when the storm rages. I can feel them." Jake's mind swirled. Shadows? He didn't have time for doubt, he had to act. "We need to get out of here." Panic surged through the girl, and she grabbed his wrist, her grip tight and desperate. "You don't understand. We can't escape them." Jake felt the weight of her fear thrum through him. He could hear the laughter again, right behind him, echoing like a taunt. "No. We can't stay." He pulled her away, instinct driving him as they raced together through the woods. Every rustle felt like a grasping hand, every snap of a twig like a summons. As they ran, the wind howled, stronger now, battering them with icy tendrils. The girl kept glancing back, and Jake felt the shadows surging at their heels, angry and relentless. "They're coming! They're coming!" she screamed, her voice shrill against the tempest. "Don't look back," Jake urged, though his heart raced with dread. "Focus on me. We'll find a way out. Just trust me." The trees warped as they dashed by, the darkness thickening, closing in. Just when Jake thought they might reach the other side, the ground shifted beneath him, a strip of mud pulling him down. He stumbled and fell, dragging the girl with him. He pushed himself up, but the shadows had become a swirling mass, surrounding them, hungry. "Jake!" the girl cried, eyes wide with terror. "We can't let them catch us." But as he stood, paralyzed by fear, a revolting figure burst through the mass, a writhing horror of darkness with soulless eyes, just like the one he had seen before. Chains clattered ominously as it stepped closer. "You can't escape what's already claimed you," it rasped, voice low and grating, echoing through the trees. "No! No!" Jake shouted, fighting every instinct to flee. Desperation sparked a new idea. "Stay close to me. Remember the light. We have to find the light." With those words, his feet found the ground again. He sprinted, pulling the girl along behind him. The shadows surged, clawing at their heels. Just ahead, he glimpsed a flicker, a faint glow ebbed from beyond the trees. His heart raced, a beacon of hope amid the encroaching dread. "Jake!" the girl shouted, panic returning to her voice. "Don't stop. They'll take us both." But they were dangerously close to the light now. Determination surged in his veins. As the shadows pressed harder, he realized the truth: he couldn't fight this alone. He needed her strength, her belief. "Trust me," he called again as the first of the shadows lunged for them, claws of darkness reaching hungrily. In a moment of clarity, Jake made a choice. He would cling to this sliver of hope, even if it cost him everything. And as they hurtled toward the light, he wondered, could it truly save them, or was it the heart of a greater nightmare waiting to unfold? Would they cross that line? Or would the darkness consume them both before they could find out? Jake lunged forward, fear propelling his every step. The light flickered like a candle in the wind, but it beckoned with an urgency that drove him closer. The shadows clawed at his back, crawling like venomous insects, and he could almost feel their icy breath against his neck. "Keep up!" he yelled, dragging the girl along, her small body struggling to match his pace. Her frightened eyes reflected a fear he had never known. He couldn't let her down. He had already lost Sarah, he couldn't lose anyone else. As they closed in on the glow, it grew brighter, revealing what appeared to be a clearing. Jake's heart raced faster. Was it a trap? The shadows writhed menacingly behind them, like a pack of wolves closing in on their prey. "Look!" the girl shouted, pointing ahead. The light emanated from a fallen tree, its hollow trunk glowing with an eerie luminescence. "It's a safe haven," she cried, hope igniting in her voice. "We'll be safe there." But as they approached, Jake saw the roots writhing beneath the surface, almost alive, wriggling with dark energy. "I don't know," he murmured, uncertainty creeping in. "No. We have to," she insisted. "They can't follow us inside." With a surge of adrenaline, Jake made a decision. They veered left, angling toward the glowing tree, but with every inch they gained, the shadows surged forward, a tide of dark fury. He felt panic swell within him as he pushed harder, the cold heaviness of despair clinging to him. Suddenly, the shadows lunged, their claws grazing his arm. A bolt of pain shot through him as he stumbled, nearly falling, but he felt the girl's grip tighten. "Go! Go!" she screamed. That clenched fist was the only thing pulling him forward, even as shadows clawed at his legs, threatening to drag him back. They reached the hollow at last, diving headfirst inside, desperately collapsing against the cool, damp wood. The glow enveloped them, and Jake raced to catch his breath, but the shadows snarled just outside, their hunger palpable. "We're safe here, right?" the girl whispered, voice trembling. I don't know," he admitted, the truth heavy on his tongue. The glow pulsed, and a figure appeared within an old woman, her face etched with wrinkles, eyes gleaming with wisdom. "The light protects you," she said gently, voice soft but carrying a weight. "But be wary, darkness has its own rules." "What do you mean?" Jake asked, desperation clinging like a shadow. She tilted her head, gazing past him into the gloom. "Light draws darkness," she murmured. "You must understand what you seek may also seek you." Fear gripped Jake's heart, but the girl remained steadfast beside him. "We don't want to stay here. We need to get to safety." "Patience is the only weapon against the night," the woman replied, her tone both soothing and foreboding. "You must confront what lies beyond. There is no escaping it." The shadows began to morph outside, elongating, twisting into grotesque shapes. They howled, their cries echoing through the trees, as if warning them of the truth hidden just beyond the light. "Jake," the girl whispered, her face pale. "What do we do now?" A chill gripped him as he locked eyes with the woman, desperate for a glimmer of hope. "We confront it," like she said. But even as the words left his mouth, uncertainty gnawed at him. As the shadows danced and whispered secrets, Jake felt the weight of their hunger sinking deep into his bones. Could he face the darkness waiting beyond? Or would it shatter the light that shielded them? The tree trembled slightly, as if sensing their fears. "Something's coming," he breathed, heart pounding. In that moment, he realized they had yet to experience the worst of the night. The darkness was not merely waiting, it was preparing for its next move. Would it barrel through the light, devouring all in its path? Or would Jake find the strength to defy the growing tide of despair that threatened to swallow them whole? The echoes of howling shadows filled the hollow, wrapping Jake and the girl in a palpable tension. Every breath they took felt heavy with dread as they huddled together, sweat cooling on their skin. The old woman's presence was a fragile anchor in a storm of fear, yet her words danced like fireflies of uncertainty. "What lies beyond?" the girl whispered, clutching Jake's arm. He could feel her trembling, a tiny earthquake at his side. I don't know," he breathed. His eyes darted to the gaping entrance, where the shadows writhed like a pack of hungry wolves. Each flick of movement seemed more sinister than the last. "But we can't stay here forever." The old woman, still and wise, leaned closer. "You must prepare. The darkness seeks not just to consume, but to reveal your greatest fears. And it will do so in the most despicable ways." Jake's stomach lurched. "What do you mean?" "We need to go." The urgency flared in his voice, but deep down, he understood the woman's warning. The night was just beginning its wicked game. "It's a test," she said softly. "You must confront it. Instead of running, you must stand your ground. The shadows will find cracks within you, places where your own light falters." As she spoke, the sound of scratching intensified outside. The girl gasped, covering her mouth. Something was trying to break inside. "What if we can't fight it?" She whimpered, tears glistening in her terrified eyes. A haunting smell slipped in through the hollow, like something rotten and ancient. "We cannot save ourselves alone," he replied, squeezing her hand. "But if we trust each other and embrace that light, maybe we can push it back." A moment of silence enveloped them. The old woman nodded. "The strength of your bond will become a weapon. But remember, shadows can twist the truth, show illusions that feel all too real." Jake swallowed hard. What illusions? Suddenly, a howl pierced the air, resonating like a cry of despair. It shot through him like ice. "Jake!" The girl screamed, her voice laced with panic. "What is happening?" He turned to face the entrance. The shadows churned more violently now, as if something was pushing against them, thirsting to break through. A form began to emerge, grotesque and swirling, half-formed yet horrifyingly human. "Don't look!" he shouted, slamming his eyes shut, but the horrid essence entered through the thinnest crack of light. He could hear it, the voice, soft and taunting. "Jake, you failed to protect them. Just like before." His heart sank. They were pulling at his memories, ripping open old wounds. Sarah's face flashed in his mind, her laughter turning to cries for help. "No!" he shouted, shaking his head violently. "That's not true." The shadows laughed, a cruel symphony of despair. "You can't run from your past, Jake. It lives in you." "No." The girl's desperate voice broke through the fog of panic. "We won, let it win." Her fierce declaration ignited something within him. It wasn't just his fear they were facing. It was his past, the memories he had buried deep. Jake adjusted his grip on her hand, taking a small step toward the glowing light. "Together!" he yelled. "We will face it together." In that moment, the shadow wavered, shifting as if uncertain. But then a roar erupted, anger boiling over as a wave crashed through the entrance. The hollow trembled, and the old woman's face tightened with an unspoken fear. "What now, Jake?" The girl whimpered, eyes wide that he felt the weight of her gaze, and with it, a sudden clarity washed over him. The night was relentless, and the shadows were closing in fast. If they were to stand a chance, they had to confront not just the shadows, but the truth of their hearts. "Then we make our stand," he breathed. As the shadows swirled closer, hungry for what lay within, Jake felt the pulse of their bond radiating against the darkness, a flicker of hope in that suffocating void. But would hope be enough to hold against the onslaught? The shadows lunged forward, and Jake braced himself. Would they emerge victorious, or would the night enslave them forever? The roar of the shadows crashed into the hollow like a tempest, forceful and commanding. Jake felt the air around him pulse with a vibrant energy, crackling like electricity. Beside him, the girl clutched his hand tighter, her small frame quaking with fear. But there was something more now, a flicker of determination ignited within them, a thread of courage woven into the fabric of their shared dread. "Step into the light," the old woman commanded, her voice grounding amidst the chaos. "Let it reveal what is true." With a nod from Jake, they moved toward the brilliant glow that flickered ahead, an oasis in a desert of despair. The shadows recoiled momentarily as they dared to approach. But the darkness was clever, and it lunged again with renewed ferocity, claws of fear scraping against the edges of their resolve. As they stepped closer, fragmented whispers danced in the air, weaving through the fabric of their minds. "Why did you leave her, Jake?" A voice hissed like the wind, so familiar yet twisted. Images filled his head, memories of choices he wished to forget. The girl glanced at him, her confusion palpable. "What are they saying?" she breathed. "They're trying to twist my past," Jake replied, gritting his teeth. "I won't let them." The shadows writhed expectantly, eager to break his composure. "Face it," they cried, a cacophony of voices rising around him. "You're a coward. You let her go." Jake shook his head as images of Sarah wafted like smoke, a past intertwined with regret, guilt threading tightly around his chest. He had been helpless once, but not again. He turned towards the girl, fire blazing in his heart. We will not let them win. Remember what the old woman said. We fight together. At that moment, the shadows recoiled, sensing the strength of their bond. They let out a furious howl, a sound that pierced the night, shattering the fragile peace. You think you're stronger than your own fear? The dark hum taunted. I am not alone. Jake shouted. He took the girl's face in his hands, forcing her to look into his eyes. You hear me? We have to hold on. No matter what they throw at us. A tremor ran through the hollow, the earth shivering with the weight of their tension. Suddenly, the shadows formed images, distorted shapes of people they had lost, disfigured by their sorrow. Each figure reached out with phantom arms, longing for connection. Don't look at them. Jake warned, but the girl's resolve faltered as she recognized a beloved face, a grandmother, long thought gone. No. She gasped, pain slicing through her. Focus on me. Jake commanded. We're stronger than this. Remember who we are. A fierce light began to emanate from their clasped hands. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in outrage. You can't escape what you've done. Face the truth. But Jake pushed against the tide, the pulsing warmth from their hands grew stronger, the light flickering defiantly against the darkness. Together. He shouted again, squeezing her hand. Believe in our strength. For a brief moment, the shadows hesitated, shrinking back. It was just enough, Jake saw his moment. Now. He urged, stepping into the swirling shadows. As he crossed the threshold, a sensation like cold fire washed over him. The darkness gnashed and snapped at his edges, but he pressed on, feeling the girl follow behind him, her heartbeat echoing against his. They surged forward, raising their joined hands to pierce the heart of the shadow's fury. The darkness screamed, a wounded beast in the throes of despair, and for the first time, doubt flickered in its relentless eyes. Then he saw it, the heart of their power twisted in on itself, a mass of light and shadow in turmoil. Could they transform it? Could they find a way to turn that pain back on itself? But as they pressed closer, the shadows coiled around them, tightening like a vice. And at that moment of danger, a flash of fear ran through Jake, quickly drowned out by defiance. Would they rise anew, or would the shadows consume everything they fought for? Do it, Jake. The girl shouted, her voice fierce as lightning, and then the darkness laughed, a guttural sound that sent chills down their spines. Behind it lay a secret, one that could either save them or doom them forever. The shadows lunged again, this time with a ferocity that felt tangible, like a physical force pushing against Jake. He struggled, heart racing, the weight of the darkness pressing in on him and the girl. They had ventured too far, or maybe the shadows had simply revealed how deep their fears ran. Jake, I can't hold on. The girl cried, her voice barely above a whisper. She glanced at him, eyes wide with panic, the connection between them flickering dimly under the onslaught. Fear gripped him hard, clenching at his chest. He couldn't let her slip away. No, stay with me. Focus on the light. He urged, voice steady even as his own resolve felt like a tightrope stretched over a bottomless pit. He pulled her closer, their energy tangling and weaving, a fragile thread amidst howling chaos. The shadows writhed violently, pulsing with sinister laughter. You think your love can save you? You are bound by your own failures. They shrieked, their voices mingling with the cries of those they had lost. Jake felt the weight of their accusations, the truth in each word suffocating. He would not succumb. Your past is your prison. They insisted, wrapping around him like cold mist, suffocating in thick. Images flashed in his mind, Sarah's disappointment, the hurt he caused, moments turned black with regret. Each memory a dagger plunging deeper into his heart. But would he relay that pain into despair, or let it ignite a fire? No. You're wrong. Jake shouted into the chaos, grasping at the memories to transform them. I've made mistakes, but I'm here to fight. He turned to the girl with fresh determination, urgency lacing every word. "We can change this. We have to push through." With that, he breathed in deeply, summoning every ounce of strength he possessed. The pulsing light between their hands flickered like a candle fighting against a storm, but he could feel it rising, igniting sparks of hope within their grip. The shadows recoiled once more, momentarily blinded. "Together!" he screamed, reaching deeper into himself and drawing the girl forward. The weight of the shadows pressed in around them, clawing at the edges of their spirit, but they pressed on. They surged into the heart of the darkness, their united light illuminating the swirling void. It was a gamble, a leap of faith. Jake squeezed the girl's hand, and they let everything else fall away: fear, doubt, even the past that haunted them. They were shining bright, two souls merging into a beacon against the gathering storm. As their light met the cold grasp of darkness, it erupted. A brilliant display of shimmering colors ripped across the abyss, forcing a scream from the shadows that echoed like thunder. This was their moment. This was where everything changed. The darkness trembled, frantic, unsure, then suddenly, a hush fell. Jake felt a shift, a balance between light and dark that felt dangerously unstable. The shadows began to recede, whispers turning into worried murmurs. But just as triumph surged in his veins, the shrill cacophony returned a final, desperate charge. "Fools! You can't erase what lies within." The shadows shrieked, twisting around them like a vortex. And then, a figure shot out of the darkness, like a bolt of lightning. It was a reflection of Jake, a twisted version of himself, eyes glinting with malice. "Don't listen to him!" the girl yelled, her voice slicing through the cacophony. But chaos threatened to drown her out. That reflection, lurking at the edge of his mind, leapt closer. The moment grew thick with dread. "Face your true self," it taunted, grinning wider as Jake felt the harsh truth pouring back in. Memories that had been hidden roared to life, and at that moment, Jake's heart stuttered. Could he confront this shadow, this embodiment of his fears, and still protect the girl? Would he risk everything to uncover the secret of his soul, or would the darkness swallow them whole? All he knew was the choice was coming. And with it, the shadows would reveal their final secret. The figure loomed closer, its features uncomfortably familiar. Jake squinted, every instinct screaming for him to flee, but he stood his ground. "This isn't me!" he shouted, heart pounding against his ribs. The girl's grip tightened, urging him to stay strong. But the dark reflection only laughed, a low, chilling sound that echoed through the void. "You think you can escape the truth? You're a coward at heart." It took a step forward, and the shadows shifted, responding to its wicked energy. They curled and twisted, alive with malevolence. "Don't listen to it, Jake," the girl shouted, eyes blazing with defiance. "You've come too far. Remember who you are." Images crashed into Jake's mind: failed friendships, dreams abandoned in the dust. The weight of his past pressed on him, threatening to crush him. I can't stand this." A flicker of doubt wormed into his thoughts. What if it was right? What if he was a failure, incapable of change? He hesitated, his resolve wavering for the first time. Then a small voice, like a whisper carried on the wind, cut through the darkness. "You're not alone." It was her voice. She believed in him. "I've made mistakes, but I've also learned," he yelled, focusing on her face, fierce and bright against the chaos. "I won't let you be taken by this darkness. Not again." The shadow sneered, unfazed. "You think this girl can save you? You'll lose her, just like you've lost everything else." Jake's heart lurched. The girl beside him had faced her own demons, had battled her past just like he had. Together, they fought against their worst nightmares. "No!" he roared, an ember of rage igniting in him. "We're stronger together. I won't let my fears define me." Jake stepped toward the reflection, channeling all his anger and pain into one blazing moment. I embrace my truth. I will not be haunted. The laughter faded, replaced by a crackling silence. The reflection faltered, its twisted visage wavering like a candlelight flickering against the wind. You think you can banish me? I am everything you ever feared. Then let us end this. Jake cried, fueled by the flame of hope. He focused on the brilliant light still radiating from their joined hands. He felt the girl's spirit intertwining with his, a weaving of light too powerful to break. With a sudden surge, they pushed forward, raising their joined hands to meet the cold, dark visage. The moment felt electric, their light smashing into the shadow, piercing through the chaos with rainbow-like brilliance. The dark reflection writhed, screams echoing off the walls of the abyss. No. You cannot escape. I represent you. Then I choose to be better. Jake shouted valiantly, refusing to let the past define him. He pressed on, feeling the weight of his failures start to melt away, dispersing into the light like fog cancelled by the morning sun. That he blinked against the brightness, and when he opened his eyes, the shadows began to shrink, desperate to escape the warm embrace of their radiance. But just as victory flickered within reach, a blast of chilling cold enveloped him, an unforgiving gust that blew through his very soul. Piercing shrieks echoed around them as remnants of darkness clung to him, grasping, clawing. Jake! No! The girl's voice pierced through the freezing silence, but he was losing himself in a swirling vortex of despair again. As the dark remnants swirled wildly, the reflection's laughter echoed ominously. You may have won this battle, but you are never truly free. I will always be with you. Jake shuddered, torn between living in the triumph of their light and the chains of his past. The darkness writhed with relentless vigor, snatching at his soul. In this game of light and shadow, the final choice awaited, and the darkness would not relent easily. What would it take to break free completely? Would he find a way to eradicate the shadow for good, or would it remain a festering wound within him? With fear clenching at his gut, he realized, the battle was far from over. In the heart of that shaking storm, Jake felt the battle raging within him, as tangible as the whipping winds and slashing rain around them. Shadows clawed at his spirit, trying to pull him into a void of despair. But beside him, the girl's grip remained firm, an anchor amid the whirlwind. Together. He yelled, drawing strength from her unwavering support. The memories of Sarah flowed through him like water breaking a dam, painful but necessary. I am not that boy anymore. I refuse to be afraid. The dark reflection snarled, its form rippling like an oil slick, trying to worm its way back into the shadows of his psyche. You think this is over? I am your doubt, your guilt. I will always remain, it sneered, every word a venomous dagger aimed at Jake's heart. No, Jake said, shaking his head fiercely. You're not me. I define who I am now. With that declaration, he dug deep, feeling the warmth of light pulsing from their joined hands channeling through every fiber of his being. The shadows momentarily shrunk back, cowering from the bright blaze of their defiance. Clarity washed over Jake as he remembered the strength of love, of brotherhood, and of the friendships he had built since Sarah's disappearance. He could feel the bond with the girl next to him warm his chest. We need to push it together, he said, shouting the words into the menacing storm. With courage surging like molten lava, they charged toward the darkness as a united front. The girl echoed his defiance, her small but fierce voice rising above the chaos. Light knows no fears. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of voices that twisted in painful harmony. You'll never escape. You're a prisoner in your own mind. They screamed, the dark weight sending waves of agony through Jake's thoughts. But he would not back down. I see you now. You have no power over me unless I let you. His heart thundered as they raced toward the core of the darkness. The storm lashed violently, but their bond pulsed brighter, illuminating the gloom, and everything felt raw and electric. The reflection writhed, backpedaling from the vehemence of their glow, fear lacing its mocking laughter. You think you can erase me? I will always come back. It howled, but this time, the fear in its voice was palpable. In a rush of bravado, Jake stepped closer, the shimmering light almost within reach. The past is just a chapter, it doesn't dictate my story. You may haunt my memories, but I am moving forward. In one final explosion of courage, he gathered all the hurt, all the chaos, and all the memories of love that remained. Igniting every ounce of energy he had with the girl by his side, he cried out into the void, "This light represents everything I am. I will not run from you any longer. I accept my past. I embrace every shadow that made me who I am." The air crackled around them with energy, as hope burst forth from their clasped hands, radiating luminescence like 1,000 suns. One last surge of light erupted through the swirling tides of darkness, pushing back against the malevolence. An epic roar filled the air, like an angry storm breaking apart, the shadows ripped in two. "No! This can't be!" screamed the reflection, twisting in agony before merging back into a flicker, disappearing into nothingness. The clearing drained, and in those final moments, Jake knew. The battle was done. They had faced the darkness together and had emerged from the other end barely scathed, yet infinitely stronger. The clouds above began to clear, faint twinklings of stars appearing, the storm relinquishing its grasp. "You did it!" the girl exclaimed, her voice filled with disbelief and hope. They stood there, panting in the hush that followed the storm, hearts beating a wild rhythm of victory. But Jake's heart felt heavy with the knowledge that while one battle was won, the journey was ongoing. "No more shadows," he whispered softly, looking up at the clear night sky. "This light, this is our truth now." As dawn approached, he turned to the girl, his chest swelling with her bravery. "Let us go home. We can rebuild together. And together." They stepped into the new day not just as survivors of a nightmare, but as companions who had each faced their own darkness. Finally, as they walked back, the remnants of fear seemed to lift, shed like an old skin. Whatever came next, they were ready to face it, and beyond the horizon, a glimmer of hope once again promised that their light would guide them forward. So let's take this moment. If you've stuck with me through this journey, show your support. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss any of our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help others find our community of brave listeners. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about how this story ends. What do you think comes next for Jake and the girl? And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who also need to see this conclusion. Your support is everything to us.